But Aleph, what it does is a model that understands like the context of what's happening inside the scene. I want to turn Johnny's glasses into like red glasses, and it'll turn Johnny's glasses red. All right. Or I
Yeah.
can literally make Johnny turn like, okay, change the season or the climate that he's in. Like, hey, I want to add snow to where Johnny's working right now. So he's like literally right there with snow, freezing. I could change the background. I could change my background. I could add a green screen if I wanted to. So is a really good job at rotoscoping. It does a really good job in adding effects. So I could literally, if I had something here, I could say, hey, throw something up there that's floating. So it could be any object or an animal.
We're back.
Yes.
How you doing, Sway?
Oh man, it's Friday. This is the first time we ever record a podcast on a Friday. So the vibe is gonna be, I'm excited, but I'm winding down at the same time, a bit brain fried. So much has happened. Can't wait to talk about it. Waiting for the weekend. A lot. So, but
We're almost there. I mean, this is our send off into the weekend, which is really fun. We were saying like we want to switch to, we've been doing spaces on Friday morning, which are awesome and just sort of inspiring and energizing. And we want to, next week, we had a bunch of meetings lined up this week, but next week we'll probably go right to the spaces to record the podcast, which I think makes a lot of sense. But yeah, we're kind of into the day now after a really big week, a bunch of updates, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I had a question I wanted to ask you right off the bat that I thought would be sort of a fun thing to start with.
Yeah.
What is something you saw this week that was super inspiring to you? Or did you encounter something that just like got you excited, sparked an idea? Not necessarily a tool, because we'll be doing that separately, but like a piece of art, read something, anything of the sort?
Well, and 2 days ago I saw the movie Bad Guys. So that was fun to watch in the big screen.
Bad Guys.
You haven't seen Bad Guys 2?
No, I don't think so.
I believe it's a Sony animation of these like what's it called? Anthropomorphic characters. So you have a wolf, you have a fish, and you have all these characters who are. It's basically a redemptive story of these guys who are like known for like being the bad guys. Or like, and then they eventually like turn good, but they have to go through this journey, right, where they have to learn what it means to be good. And this movie is part 2. Part 1 is great. Part 2 was fun. It was fun to watch with the kids. Usually we did that on a Tuesday, because Tuesdays the movies are cheaper, so we pay $5 each person. So
dude,
it's like, yeah, why not?
That's awesome,
right? Beats paying 120 something.
Yeah. I used to be all about the cheap seat nights at the movies. I kind of forgot that was a thing in the town I grew up in. I think it was Tuesday nights as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Or like the second run theaters. Always my favorite. Well, dude, that's great. You do love a redemptive story. You just
Always.
shared you put together a short a while ago, and I don't know if I had seen you share it before. You shared it in a Slack thread we're on, but the redemptive story of a croissant, which is great. And you just kind of followed the journey of the redemptive story arc of this croissant.
Dude,
that
story is called Croissant, right? Croissant. So it just made sense.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I shared that with
that
a couple of friends.
ties into the St. Bread brand that I did. We need to combine these two.
Oh yeah, definitely. We'll drop that video now for you to see.
Boom.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it was like these are, when you don't feel as creative, you just start thinking of like the most like unusual things. When I created that clip, the little short film or whatever you want to call it, it's mostly an experimental video of a croissant going through like several phases of life, being in prison, and eventually like finding himself and like and leading to that
Turning
final
it all
moment.
around.
Right, leading to that final moment was like literally being baptized in water. That was inspired by like me going to Costco like 5 times in a week just to buy like croissant, right? Because my kids were just like, eating it up.
Dude,
So like
croissant
inspiration comes
binge.
from everywhere, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always there if you're looking for it.
Yeah.
I love that you can get inspired by going to Costco and buying croissants, because like Costco, I hate going to Costco. I go like once a month with my wife on a Sunday, and I just absolutely dread it. But Sway finds inspiration there, so it just
I
speaks
try
to
Yeah, and it's not easy when you go there with 3 kids or hungry most of the time and running
hit
everywhere.
up those samples, bro.
Yeah, that's the only way. The only way to do
Yeah.
it.
Well, dude, I saw a great documentary this week that I've been excited to share with you, and I wanted to wait until we were on the podcast to talk about it. I think I purchased it, was it on like YouTube TV or maybe through Apple TV? But it's a documentary about the illustrator Jeff. It's spelled Geoff, Jeff McFetridge. He's got this really iconic, distinctive style. When somebody like looks up some of his paintings, I'm sure they'll recognize it. He got started in like the skateboard industry, just doing like skateboard decks and graphics. But then has just gone on to do this amazing stuff, was sort of like a high-level creative director for a while, but then he left all that behind, started his own, basically just art studio, and he's almost evolved, not like Banksy in that like he's pulling off these stunts, but he started with painting and then moved on to like these full-on installations and creating these objects. He's actually the guy who designed this Apple Watch face.
Cool. Yeah.
These
I've
fun
always
little.
loved that one.
So
Yeah.
like that's kind of his style. Absolutely love his stuff. He's good buddies with Spike Jonze, though. They kind of came up together in the skateboarding music video industry, and so Spike Jonze directed this documentary about him. I believe it's called Drawing a Life, but so good. Highly recommended to everybody. Just look up Jeff McFetridge Drawing a Life, and you can find it somewhere.
Well, speaking of documentaries, I watched and I shared with you the documentary on the Sony Walkman. There's like a 30-minute documentary that you can find on YouTube. It's from early in the 90s, and just really cool documentary where the product designers for the Sony Walkman really get into the philosophy and how, it really stems from like Japanese culture and just really their effort of just, beautiful utility, and that was really inspiring to see. And what's cool in that doc is like how it cut away to like that modern day, like Japan, and how literally like just the Walkman changed the world. They were really focused on promoting for the individual to finally own their own personal space, especially if you're someone that lives in the city. Before that, it was like you had to be not in tune, but out of tune, hearing conversations, like you were always constantly triggered by things around you. Walkman comes in, you're able to put the headphones and kind of like own your zone. And that's pretty neat. We don't think about those things because it's so normal now, right?
Take it for granted.
Totally take it for granted. I mean, the closest thing that has come to that is like your first experience ever with an AirPod. Once you get those noise cancellation just sucking you in.
Dude.
That's pretty much what the Walkman did, but at a whole different like level. And now it's just part of us.
Absolutely. I mean, we forget that like Sony was kind of like, as far as innovation, they were the Apple back then, right? And now Apple's becoming the new Sony, and that they're falling off. But it's funny how these things sort of work. But like, yeah, dude, incredible company, such unique kind of product design. And I go back and sort of like reference their stuff often. But I've got a funny story about a Walkman I just have to share really quick. So My mother-in-law is just like trapped in the 80s, like super old school. She doesn't want to update. She doesn't care about anything. She hadn't flown in probably like a decade. She was coming up to see us a couple years ago. My wife got her a ticket, got her all sorted out, but she's going through TSA and she still rocks the Walkman.
No.
So she's going through TSA with the Walkman, and I guess the TSA agent had to stop her and be like, what is this? And like, it was like a younger guy. He had no idea. He had to call over somebody else. And he's like, that's a personal music listening device called a Walkman
Ancient
that you put a
technology.
cassette in. She had like her Bad Company tape in there. But it's just so funny. And I love that like the TSA agent was just like, I don't even know what this is.
Oh God, yeah. We need to bring those tape players back, man. I was looking for some too. Like they would go for like $60, but there's some like weird brand. Like now I need to look for like Sony Walkman, buy a bunch of tapes, and have my kids just go through it.
Dude, that'd be awesome.
Give them the experience.
I've got a buddy who's gotten really into sort of buying old iPods and then like upgrading I think it's like the preamp and the headphone input. So he's like buying old iPods, opening them up, sort of reconstructing it so it's way higher fidelity listening experience, and then like selling those. But I've been chatting with him. I'm like, dude, I would love to have like an iPod loaded up with all your favorite music, and then it's just like, vinyl quality, like sound quality. I love that, like, that's kind of the consumer cycle though, right? It's like this stuff is the new thing and it's super convenient, sort of something new comes along, but then you get this sort of rebirth, reemergence from like the hobbyists.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny to see that happening with iPods now.
Let's find out! Let's find out!
Diary of an AI Startup. Give some updates of what's going on this week.
Yeah, every week is a brand new week. Something's always happening, and I'm glad that something's always evolving. And and every week there's always like a win that's always worth celebrating. But number one is a new format for this podcast, right? It's like season 2 almost, right, of this podcast. It's just a whole new facelift. And I've said it before, it's like our previous recordings that were more prototype, and we're still approaching it kind of that way with this one, but there's more structure, there's more, and I love the idea that these segments could be modular because it also helps in the edit. I was like, well, it's better if we switch these segments around and it makes more sense in storytelling wise. So now we can kind of take a step back and do that with the podcast and be more succinct and more precise. So, and that's the goal, and really, get you all engaged and into what we're talking about. And the spirit is still there to build in public. So that's pretty neat that we get to, really show our whole playbook, right? So really excited about that. Jonny, we've I don't know if this is our second pitch, but we've pitched to investors. We've been pitching SuperModels to so many people. We've already are in discussions with our technical partner. Things are we're starting to cook now. What's going to be the SuperModels prototype, and you've been killing it, man. You've been killing it really in these pitches.
Thanks, man.
Johnny's the one leading because he's like the great communicator. And it's you have that pitch locked in. It felt so good when I saw you really tell the SuperModel story and what we're trying to solve with it yesterday. And I want to congratulate you here in this podcast.
Dude, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, man, it's like I went so deep on the pitch, not just this week, but thinking about it last week and getting it really, really dialed in. And it's crazy how much work it takes to get like a 15-page presentation dialed in, and then sort of like just figuring out the story arc you want to tell, what points of the product you want to hit on, really dialing in like, who are we going after? What does this do for them? Why does it make sense? How do we plan to build a market and build momentum around that? So it's really this sort of reductive process where you just have to pull away the unnecessary and refine the parts that are there. was like late nights and early mornings this week kind of getting ready for it. But now it's great because it's like we've only done it twice and I already feel like I know it like the back of my hand, and I'll just get more and more familiar. And, as we like to do, like, we can't just leave the visuals alone either. So we're like adding little elements, adding animations here and there, because that's part of it. And that's part of like our differentiating factor for presenting ourselves is like, we're professional visual communicators, right? So we try to take advantage of that when we're pitching and putting that into our deck. And it really, I think, helps land the idea right away and kind of resonate with people. So yeah, got some awesome feedback right away. Got some notes on how to make things even better and more clear. And overall, just feeling really good about it. We've got more meetings lined up for next week. So things are moving along on that front. And as you mentioned, like really kicked things off with our sort of technical partners this week. Prototype's going to be in the works shortly. So it was one of those weeks where it felt like we took a few exponential steps forward and things are starting to come together really quickly.
Yeah, man, it's really amazing to see. And we're such, and I'm grateful, we're in such a wonderful position, such a great position and the opportunity that we have to get the feedback of the caliber of investors that we get to pitch to, and
100%,
people who are passionate about the product, who love the idea, and whoa, someone fell. I heard like a big bang here, and people who are just willing to help us out along the way. And by just like poking holes and asking like the hard questions, which at the end
feedback
helps us
is
out.
a gift.
Yeah, really, and helps us out with like, we got the product vision locked down, but now when it comes to product strategy, it's like, okay, this is where we need to really, do it right, sell it right, go to market. What the monetization part, the financial part is like, again, remember, Augmented Imagination is an artist-led company, so these are artists that are learning how to be like startup founders and we're under the advisement of like a thing, because we're an incubated company, and thinking about tokenization, we're thinking about productizing, and with community building, we're doing so much and we're learning so much along the way. And like we see Jonny, he's doing like UX wireframing. We're talking to like a bunch of engineers and they're speaking all these sort of languages, and we're kind of like on the cloud on the side. What is
100%. I was absolutely doing that in our last meeting.
Right?
I'm like, what is this thing? Okay, cool.
Yeah. But this is where we leverage from the tools of like the power of AI. When you hit record, right, you can easily take that recording and take it to your favorite LLM and just get like a condensed highlights, bullet points of what has been discussed. And then, you can you walk away with more knowledge. So all of this has been a wonderful experience. This as a founder myself, this has challenged me. Like, I've worked on my intros and like I'm trying to get like more confident in like delivering on like who I am, what I do, what my expertise is, and I feel that's been coming across, and that's it's really helping the whole company. So tons of cool stuff, and man, the X spaces are just getting better and better.
So good.
Today we did our 5th X space with Rad TV. We've spoken to Object as well, Object Marketplaces, who's where you can place art on Tezos, the blockchain. We've spoken to like a bunch of artists working in the entertainment industry and the traditional, fine art industry as well, and making all these connections and really, really exploring what it is like. Okay, really trying to bridge the gap. Like literally, that was our goal: bridge the gap between art and craft and tech, and like what it means to like own your data, own your art, have more creative control. What does privacy mean? How does Web3 and that sort of thing like benefits the creator? So I hope the community, all of you guys that are listening in, feel like you're being part of this journey and are learning like along the way along with us, because that was the whole point. And today's, we started with like 60-minute spaces, and now they're like past 90, because they're just getting
we're doing
so
90
good.
plus already. Yep. And it's crazy how it just like it ramps up and up and up. But yeah, like this week with Tony and Cal from Rad TV. So amazing to talk to those guys that are sort of like motivated and have like the same principles as us, and they're several steps ahead of where we are. But like hearing the sort of their journey to Rad TV, what they're building, the things they're still trying to work out that are the exact same questions we're sort of contemplating from a product side right now, like benefits us massively. But dude, to see like people like that doing it and succeeding and really like being the champions of like artists and creators and making it work is super encouraging. And it just sort of motivates and reminds me that like, okay, this is a bigger movement. This is a bigger signal. This is not just us. And it feels good to be a part of that wider, broader movement.
Oh, man.
Tool talk. What you got for us this week, Sway?
Well, I mean, I wish I could mention them all. I wish I could try them all, because sometimes it's just way too many, right?
You're a fiend.
Yeah. So, like, we have OpenAI. They just dropped their, like, open model, right? What's it called? Like GPT OSS or something like that. Grok just dropped their Grok 4. And now you can generate images and video with your voice, and that's a really cool experience that you could do. We'll probably cut to a scene with me doing it. This is Grok 4's Imagine for image and video generation. We're gonna give the voice mode speak thing here a try. Make an image of Chuck Norris fighting a dinosaur. Make it a wide shot. Give Chuck Norris a red suit. Add fire in the background. I don't know exactly what model they're using. They're probably using Flux, but I'm not too sure. I don't know if it's a proprietary model. Yeah, you can generate images, iterate and iterate and iterate on that images just with your voice, and that's crazy to see.
We're getting to some like Jarvis and Tony Stark stuff.
Oh, totally, and it's ridiculously fast. All right, you're literally just waiting for like 3 seconds for that image to generate, and if you keep talking, because you know the voice will still be on and active, it'll just slide up and generate more images until you're content.
Wow.
And then all you have to do is, if you're happy with one image, select that image and hit the video option. It'll generate the video for you. So impressive tool for those who are content creators or creating content on social media, especially those creating like in the vertical format. Really impressive. Photoshop dropped the Harmonize feature, which is an AI feature available in Photoshop beta, where you can literally take like either a cutout or a masking of an object layered on top of another one, and have Photoshop just basically relight that object to blend those two images together. So it's really, really wild. And I have a couple of examples of that where I show you where I took like this soda can, and use context, the flux, to right sway on that soda can, and then I masked that soda can out, put it on Photoshop, added a desert background, and hit Harmonize. And at first, those two images look like, yeah, they're not related, they're not supposed to be here. But once you hit Harmonize, it literally feels like you're seeing a soda can like sitting on like desert sand. So really impressive what Photoshop is doing. As much hate, that with shade that we throw at them, you know what reminds me about Adobe, because sometimes we're like, oh, yeah, we still kind of have to use it. Like it reminds me of like going back to what we're saying with Sony, and going back to the book that I have back there of Inside Steve's Brain, and there's stories about Steve Jobs literally buying Sony products and tearing it apart to see like how is this product
How it's
actually
built.
working, and
Yep.
that's exactly what we're doing with Photoshop and all these tools. So we might throw shade and probably still be subscribed to them, but we're really dissecting
Yep.
and saying, okay, how can we? That was good, Photoshop. We're gonna one up
Yep.
it now. So really cool. Kudos to what they did there. Did you get a chance to try Harmonize by any chance?
No, actually, like you talking about it right here is the first time I've heard of it, but it sounds fantastic. I mean, I can already imagine like the use cases for me will just be like product mockups,
Dude.
Like
Yes.
that's such a game changer for product mockups. Something I would do all the time very tediously and kind of by hand back in the day, where it's like have to like transform and tweak your label onto a blank product and then adjust the lighting right, and like the amount of time saving, and right, you can just
Right.
put it in sort of any environment you want, is game changing. And it feels like Adobe is starting to, some of like the AI tools for quite a while like didn't have a lot of utility and weren't that good, but it feels like they're sort of leveling up right now. The Firefly boards, which is like a product I watched demos
yes.
on, but I haven't had a chance to play with
Same.
yet. That looks really crazy
pretty fire.
too. And
Yeah.
one of, right, they've been so far behind as far as like when you build something in Adobe, like all of your stuff is totally siloed off, where it's like Figma, right? Other sort of like web-based tools solved this. Adobe hadn't. But when I saw Firefly boards and you have this sort of communal, infinite scaling creative space, not just like a mood board white space, but somewhere you can actually, right, be generating and blending stuff up and have like kind of shared mood boards. Like I'm going to take Sway's kind of style over here and I'm going to apply it to my image. Like that stuff's really exciting.
Yeah.
So I think they're starting to like figure it out a little bit.
I hope so, because sometimes you open, like when I open Creative Cloud, their like manager app, I was like, oh my God, where do I click? So messy.
Yeah.
So hopefully they solve all those things. But we do see it, when I doodle using their Fresco app, and then that could be cross integrated into Photoshop, and then I could take that to Illustrator if I wanted to. So like that's improving and getting better. So yeah, and like you, I didn't get the chance to mess around with their boards, but I was excited to see that, because I love me some boards, and I've been motivated by all the board stuff that you've been showing. You got to check out the last podcast where Jonny goes deep into the mood boards, and
Yep, that was fun.
yeah, one more tool I'm really excited about is
let's have it.
Runway. Runway Aleph. Aleph, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, as Aleph or Aleph. And this is a very different tool compared to what we showed you last time and with Gen 4 Act 2, where we turned Jonny into a claymation. I turned myself to a different like styles of claymations, and that was cool. But Aleph, what it does is a model that understands like the context of what's happening inside the scene. So I could literally, there's more object manipulation, more like character manipulation. I could change the style kind of in a different way, or I can like, hey, tell the model, I want to turn Jonny's glasses into like red glasses, and it'll turn Jonny's glasses red. All right. Or
Yeah.
I can literally make Jonny turn like, okay, change the season or the climate that he's in. Like, hey, I want to add snow to where Jonny's working right now. So he's like literally right there with snow, freezing. I could change the background. I could change my background. I could add a green screen if I wanted to. So is a really good job at rotoscoping. It does a really good job in adding effects. So I could literally, if I had something here, I could say, hey, throw something up there that's floating. So it could be any object or an animal. So think of Flux Flux, but for video. And there's like a chat interface on top of that, where the chat itself has context and understanding of what you want to do. So it's very like conversational. The sad thing about this is it's a still early tool. It's an impressive tool, but it's still early. You're limited to like 5 seconds. Some results are a bit wonky, but you get to see like the potential, and it's really impressive what you can do with just that model alone. So I can only imagine where that model is going to be, in the next couple of weeks, months, or maybe years.
Yeah.
So
The timelines on these things are so crazy because it's like, just wait 2 weeks and there'll be a better version out,
Yeah.
Like
Dude, these guys literally
it
just
all
dropped Act
moves
2.
so fast.
Yeah.
Yep.
These guys literally dropped Act 2, and then they go ahead and drop, Aleph. So it's like, yeah, you can't keep up, but it's wild times.
Yeah. Love it. Good stuff, dude. And appreciate these updates from you because you've got your finger on the pulse. And like we say all the time, it's something new every few days and there's new capabilities unlocked. So like you've really got to be paying attention because if there's some sort of issue you're running into or something you want to do, like chances are you can do it. You're just like not looking in the right place. All right, rolling on. I've got something fun I'm excited to share with everybody.
Please.
So, Sway, as you know, I love me some flow states. Got really into it, started experimenting on my own like 2017. Would kind of figure out these flow protocols, as I like to call them, and then sort of like share them with friends, all of these like recipes of how to get yourself into a flow state. And it was from reading that book, but then also following very closely the authors, Stephen Kotler and Jamie Wheal, in particular, Stephen Kotler, who started something called the Flow Research Collective, which is like the foremost sort of institute doing research on flow states, but then also doing training on flow states. Fast forward to 2022, I took basically neurologically based high performance flow state coaching from them. So learned all about flow states, what is actually happening in the brain, and then have just kind of since then been developing my own content around it, was kind of producing a flow state app at one point. Anyway, when everybody hears me nerd out about flow states, that's the reason why, because I've just gone so deep on this stuff. So I actually presented to a group of designers through the Show It community. Show It's like a website builder, almost like a Squarespace. Some friends of mine, they've got a really great community of designers. They asked me to do this talk, kind of teaching people about flow states. So did that last week. I had already had this talk and kind of given it to a few people, but again, made some upgrades to it, added some new things. So wanted to just kind of share a little bit of that here, go over it, and really give us a shared kind of understanding and definition of what flow state is. So in future episodes, when I go a little bit deeper, everybody's got a base understanding. So let's start with just like, what is flow? Flow states are simply flow is that magical experience when you become so completely absorbed and focused in an activity that time seems to disappear. Self-doubt vanishes and you perform at your absolute best with effortless ease. This is kind of known in different circles by a lot of different things. This is in the zone. Comedians like to refer to it as the forever box, which is a term I absolutely love because you feel like kind of time stops and you're in this deep now. Tapped in, right? Like you're just like thinking on a different level, like, bro, I'm tapped in. Code mode, this is what developers refer to it as. Don't fuck with me, I'm in code mode. Like, don't break my flow state or I won't be able to get back into it. On fire. This is an NBA difference, right? When you're just like, basketball players say when they're in a flow state, it feels like the basket is as big as a hula hoop. Like it's just kind of effortless for them. So what does flow state look like? Hyperspeed decision-making, like it's faster than you can rationally sort of think and act. These things just happen instantaneously. Increased pattern recognition. So like you can just see things and patterns you typically wouldn't see. Again, the ability to hyper focus. You can kind of close out things happening around you and go into a deep state of focus. Like I mentioned, sort of effortless effort. Everything just flows. You don't have to force anything. It just happens. Increased information absorption. You get this sense that like there's something more at play. You're absorbing more. You're sort of you're hyper focused, but you're also like more aware in so many ways. So what flow feels like, and this is the way to really like self-analyze and realize like, oh, when I'm like drawing, that's a flow state. That's what it feels like. When I go out on my longboard, when I'm skiing, whatever it may be, these are probably the sensations you'll get. So flow is marked by the acronym STER, S-T-E-R. And what that stands for is S, you get a sense of selflessness. So your sense of self completely disappears. What this means is like the inner critic goes away for artists, right? One of the reasons I got into flow states initially was I was really struggling with work because I would be in the early stages of working on something and like my inner critic in my head would essentially be talking shit before I could even like get it to a place where it could be something. Like I wasn't allowing myself to cook because the inner critic was just too loud. You get this sense of timelessness. So it can either sort of slow down or speed up. You might like get into a zone and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, 5 hours went by. Like what happened there? Or you could also get this kind of time slowing down, like freeze frame effect. If you've ever been in like a car crash or something, you know, you're experiencing a sense of flow right there because you get this rush of adrenaline, which is part of like the flow neurochemical cocktail. Time actually kind of slows down for you. Again, like I said, you get this sense of effortlessness, like toss up the basketball and it just goes in, like carelessly putt and it drops in, whatever it may be. But yeah, it's sort of action without effort. And then, like I mentioned, richness, a deep sense of richness, meaning, and purpose arises. You get this sort of increased insight and increased intuition. So it is almost this like mystical state in so many ways. And once you get like a taste of that, a sense of that, like you just want more and more. This was very much my experience when I figured out like, holy shit, I can actually like get myself into a flow state and leverage this. It was just like all I wanted to do. So yeah, little background on flow there. Just wanted to share that here. I've got a lot more in this deck where I can actually go into like under the hood of the brain during a flow state and what's happening there. And then eventually I'll start sharing some of those like flow hacks or flow protocols that can help you get into a flow state. But based on this, Sway, I would love to just know like when you've encountered flow and if this sort of like resonates with you and you're like, oh yeah, I know this from that time and like what you were doing at that point.
Oh yeah. It's funny you mentioned neurobiology because that's the chapter I'm in. So I'm like somewhere on page 100 on the Stealing Fire book. So wrapping my brain around that and loving the examples there. And yes, Stir, familiar with it. So back here I have a set of drums. So and I also have a bass there. More fluent on the drums. I've been playing drums for years. Not playing with a band or playing anywhere. My goal is to hopefully start a band or play at a bar or something. I don't know. But
be a one-man band, knowing
yeah,
you.
or that. But when I was very active playing drums, I would often when I entered the state of flow, for me it was like almost like an out of body experience. So I would play, and obviously this is all a product of me like drilling and knowing my parts and none, right? So like flow, I come to understand that it's easier to enter the flow state when you've done all the training, you're skillful, right, at something, right? Like surfing. It's like you're not going to enter the state of flow if you don't know how to surf and plan to like, right? So you have to be skilled in whatever, flow exercise you want to get into. But for me, drums and the way that feels when I'm playing and I'm in the zone, I get like a flush of joy, and
Mhm.
and, and it feels like an out of body experience, because then I feel like my body is taking control. The body knows, like there's this great book called The Body Knows the Score, and the body is smart, right? It's a very smart organism, and I get a kick out of it when I'm able to have, for that split second, I'm able to have that awareness, like, man, this is so cool. It feels like my body's on autopilot, and then I get like a full, I don't know whether it's like dopamine or like, adrenaline. It's a mix of everything, and
It's all of it. Yeah.
it's right, and when I usually experience those moments, it marks, right, and it's a really good feeling. Last time I had that feeling was in the bass, which is an instrument that I'm starting to get familiar with. I am more of I have better ear training. I'm better at, right. I have good pitch versus like music theory and that sort of thing. I've always struggled. I guess it's because of my dyslexia, but like I've been playing music ever since high school. So, and I've been exposed to like music theory since forever. But for the life of me, I was never able to like sight read, right? Because then I'll feel like the total opposite. I'll be just like anxious and I was not able to execute. So I've always leaned into just like, I know what sounds good, right? So now that I'm more familiar with like the bass and where each note is, I'm pretty good at just like composing music. And it was like 2 days ago, I was like in it, right? I was on fire, man. I was like playing notes, like, oh shit, this sounds good. Oh, I can go here. It was like, oh, now I have like a nice groove going on, you know.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed, like, of the thing that I was, and it was probably elementary, because I'm still learning, but I was really impressed of like the pattern that I was coming up with, the groove pattern. Um, and again, it was just that my body kind of took over, and it's as if it knew where the notes were. And for a split second, I'm like, oh my God, am I a savant? And then that was over. I'm like, oh no, I'm
Oh
so
my
bad
God,
at
I'm a
bass.
bass savant.
Like,
Dude,
I'm so bad
that's
at it.
incredible.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been my experience. And because of this book, I've been going back to like uh 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 more my like mobility exercise, and I've also got exposed to it and it uh uh from a kinetic side with flow, when I started doing like lobbin training and like studying all these different efforts that you could do for, and that I could apply to acting. And it's almost like the opposite of like emotional triggering, because I was never like, everyone talks about like method acting. I was like, I was never kind of like, that was never for me, because I really don't want to like mess with my brain and get in touch with my childhood trauma. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I know what sadness is, I know what grief is, I know what all those things are, and the body understands if you put it in the right context. And if you use, like, I have a wild imagination, I could put myself there, with very little effort, and my body kind of
Mhm.
takes over and does the rest, because it believes it, right? It believes it. And
Yep.
that's almost as if like when you watch a movie and you cry when something happens to you, like your hero character, you believe it. Well, your body knows this. Again, the body
Yep.
knows the score. So kinetically, I'm like, all right, because I'll go ahead and talk to Grok. I'm like, okay, Grok, I want to shut off my prefrontal cortex. What exercises do you recommend? It recommends breathing. It recommends, surfing, and like, okay, but like also movement. So I start moving, without like judging myself, and I start doing like very like these Tai Chi kind of things, and I just let my body do its thing
Let it flow.
and let it flow. The only time where I kind of restrict myself is when I feel pain. It's like, don't go there. The body knows to not go there, and just see what happens. And that to me is almost like that's an exercise, and that's like I de-stress and it feels good, and it's a nice stretch. And that's a cool exercise for me in flow. And also experience flow when I haven't experienced it lately, because like all these tools that I had to switch, and ever since I converted to like PC, I had to like retrain myself. But when I was like full Mac, which I'm considering going back to Mac, full Mac, using Final Cut Pro, used it for like 10 plus years, man, people will be behind me seeing at like, you think you see me edit, like, no, you haven't seen me edit on that tool. I am flying. I'm not even thinking. Like I'm like this, like, is that GIF meme of like Jim Carrey doing this, like
Yep.
from you know.
That's me in Adobe Illustrator, and that's why it's so hard to like leave behind, because it's like I don't have to think about anything.
Exactly.
It's just instantaneous. It just happens.
Yeah, that's when you know when a tool is useful, right? When you don't think about it.
Yep.
So, and it has a lot to do with flow. So that's a little bit of me and flow, but I do want to improve and get better at it in a lot of different ways, and apply it to many different aspects to my life. So enjoying the book, and I enjoyed what you just presented right now, because it reinforces everything.
Yeah, dude. Love it. And thanks for sharing that. And yeah, just to encourage you and to encourage others, they say flow states become flow traits. So it's highly trainable. So like once you learn these tips and tricks and like ways to get yourself into a flow state and do that intentionally, like your brain just learns, and then it becomes easier and easier to get back into a flow state. So yeah, in future episodes, I'll share more. I'll even share some of my favorite flow protocols, which tie in very much with what you're saying there, Sway, like using your body, which sort of like promotes like activity in the two different hemispheres of your brain, and essentially they start talking directly to one another, which is one of the kind of keystones of a flow state. Most of the time in waking consciousness, everything's relayed through the prefrontal cortex, but like you said, that gets shut down. Those two hemispheres talk directly to each other, and it's like unlocking superpowers.
Wow.
So yeah, fun stuff, dude. Yeah, thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, man.
You know, last week we started sharing sort of a quote, a Rick Rubin quote. We wanted to do that again this week. We thought it would be a fun way to sort of end the episode, to just kind of drop that, have a little bit of discussion, but then leave everybody with something to like contemplate a little more deeply. So you found one you were really stoked on. What do you got this week?
Taking a wrong turn allows you to see landscapes you wouldn't otherwise have seen. When I think about that quote, I think about how I intentionally take the wrong turns. Like literally, like living where I'm living now. I'm not gonna dox myself, but where I live in a brand new town, thousands of miles away from my original home. I deliberately take the wrong turn to get to know the landscape better, right? And to not solely rely on the GPS. So now there's places that I know how to get to without relying, like not my wife. She uses GPS all the time, like after being here for a year. But like I want to be comfortable with the landscape, and I want to discover new things, see new homes, see like shortcuts, and like and you could take that principle, that philosophy, and apply it to so many areas in your life. And even if you do take a wrong turn unintentionally, there's always something to learn from that experience, you know.
Yep. It reminds me of another great quote, and I don't know exactly where it comes from, but getting lost is the quickest way to find yourself.
Ooh.
Which I think is absolutely true. If you take yourself out of like the known environment and what you're comfortable with, you find out more about yourself, right, in a really interesting way. And one of my favorite things to do, and I don't think I've shared this yet, but basically from 2022 to 2024, my wife and I sold our house, basically bought this big camper and a truck, and lived in that full time for 2 years, just traveling constantly. There was one point, for a year there, we were moving somewhere else like every 2 weeks, staying mostly like West Coast because gas is just insane, but like spending all of our time in these total like novel environments, something we'd never experienced, a place we'd never been. And it was really interesting to me that, a number of things like time moved very differently because you can't like just go into autopilot in the same way. So you're just like, it felt like I was always kind of like more aware and sort of like tuned into my surroundings because you kind of have to be. And I thought that was really interesting. But one of my favorite things to do, we would go to all these different places, and at some point during the stay, I would just walk from where we were staying and just start walking and get lost and just like wandering around through like, backwoods or alleys or these weird little streets. But dude, I absolutely love getting lost in a place that I'm just not familiar with, because it's like a really interesting way of like indexing reality, you know,
Totally,
where like
yeah.
you were saying, like you're sort of map making your new surroundings, your new home, by like purposely getting lost and just seeing all this stuff. That's what I was doing. And it's funny you mentioned that you're like, yeah, I can navigate around now without the GPS. And it's crazy that like how quickly people lose that. But my wife, you know, she always gives me shit, but I really pride myself. I'm like, I can go to this city, this city, this city, this city, this city, and I can get around without maps. There's like a dozen now where I'm like, oh, I'm in Palm Springs. Like I know where I'm going.
Yeah, I
I'm
get
going to,
there.
you know, I'm going to go here
Yeah.
and here and here. But I've got like these cities all over now where I'm like, I kind of feel like a local. Like I know where my favorite coffee shop is. I know the things
So
I
cool.
want to do. So it's really fun to have that. But that's what that quote kind of brought up for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get it. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it does something to the brain, right? It heightens your sight, your senses, and
Yep.
I think it reshapes it in a way, right? It's kind of like when you, I mean, I'm not a dog owner. I guess you can back me up on this, but if you're taking your dog to a brand new location, it's like it knows where home
Map it
is,
out.
but you know, it's sniffing
Yep.
it out and just getting exposed to all this new environment. And I'm a cat guy, so when I open the window, you know, I can see my cat just like, you know, smelling the new air. The fresh air is not the same thing that's
Yeah.
always like cycling at home. So yeah, like you, man, I kind of take that personal responsibility. I always have like my dad over my shoulder, like not literally, but I'm like, yeah. I have maps. I'm looking at interstates. I'm like, okay, if I were to go from here to here, you know, like I'm not relying on digital all the time, because I want that. Like your brain is a model, right? So like I'm always trying to feed
Yep.
that there. So like even if at the end I'm using like the GPS, I'm like, oh, I remember. It's like, oh, it's here. So yeah, don't want to rely on those crutches, and always want to enhance my experience, even when I do make a wrong turn. So
Yep. Sometimes that's the best move you can make.
totally.
Another great episode.
Another successful episode where I think we should stop counting and just start doing, putting it out there,
Agreed.
and keep refining the format. And we are Augmented Imagination. You can find us on X. You can find us on Discord. Those links are somewhere under here. You can subscribe to our channel, support us there, and still debating. We've always played with the idea of having a Patreon page. We might do that or come up with something different, but that's the idea. We have an insane media machine, from like doing podcasts, X Spaces, and workshops. So, you know, more on that, and you'll get access to like the calendars and when we're doing things and how we're doing things. So follow us, follow our journey. It's really fun. I could tell you that.
It's not boring, I'll tell you that much.
Nope.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll see you soon. And yeah, take it easy.
Peace.
Peace.